Trespasser, exotic weapon from the Season 17 pass. 3 burst arc energy sidearm. 2 taps in PvP, exotic perk makes you fire 6 bullets, or 2 bursts, in a row to get a 1 tap. Catalyst gives tunnel vision, which has some weird interaction but is easily learned. It makes a joke of everything in PvE outside of endgame to the point where normal activities become genuinely boring. Like, seriously, I'd rather numb my brain by watching 2 celebrities go through a defamation trial. It's a very strong weapon. It's so laughably head and shoulders above everything in certain direct comparisons, and yet I've got a burning question about this weapon that's got me scratching my head about the whole thing. Like, yes, it's an eye-clear monster. Yes, it can comfortably send shocker knaves back into the Shadow Realm, and then some. But why? Let's start with the details. The Trespasser is an exotic energy sidearm of the 3 burst persuasion. It does 32 to the head, 20 to the body, and has the same time to kill and rounds per minute of the adaptive sidearms like the Vision, Peace Bond, and the Last Dance. The exotic perk is actually twofold. The first part is Unrepentant, which states, reloading after defeating a target causes the next burst to be a longer, more powerful super burst. This super burst is actually 2 bursts tacked on together to create 1 stream of 6 bullets. And if you get a kill with the super burst, that's where the second part comes in. Be the Danger is the 3rd column perk, and it states that final blows with unrepentant super bursts automatically reload your weapon and provide an unrepentant super burst. So this gun is meant to chain kills endlessly. Not something that you're going to do much of in PvP, but that's not necessarily a deal breaker. At 0.73 seconds, the time to kill isn't the fastest out there, but what makes these types of sidearms particularly nasty is their forgiveness in killing. You only need 5 crits and 2 body to kill, which is 7 bullets out of 9 in 3 bursts. It can 2-tap if you hit perfect bursts of 6 crits, and your opponent is under 6 resilience. The same is true of the super burst, but even if you don't kill them immediately, they're not going to be hard to clean up. And given the meta is heavily shaping up to be a resilience and recovery meta, expect more and more people to run with more than 6 resilience in the coming weeks. When it comes to the feel, I tested this on both mouse and keyboard and controller, and the footage on screen will match. On mouse and keyboard, it definitely felt more unforgiving and more loose, in the same way that The Last Word feels more loose. The aim assist fall-off was incredibly noticeable, and at the edge of its range band, I had to put a lot more focus into pinpoint aiming than I would normally do. But when it's in range, it's an absolute monster, and the bullets register perfectly. On controller, it's much the same story. Like adaptive sidearms in general, that reticle stickiness is really strong, and it almost gravitates your aim to the target when you're in range. But the second you step out of that band, it's like a switch flicks off and you're left all on your own. I found that over time it was much easier to get used to Trespasser on the sticks because of that stickiness. If you feel that pull, you're good for a shot. If you don't, well, you can chance your luck, but you'll probably just alert the opponent to turn around and dunk on you from where they are. The Catalyst, which is an absolute chore to grind for, holy Christ, grants tunnel vision upon getting a kill. There's a catch though. Once you reload to proc it, it doesn't refresh on chained kills. This is because tunnel vision is on its own hard timer, lasting 6 or so seconds. Timing the refresh is easy enough in PvE. The sequence goes like this: kill, reload, tunnel vision comes up, kill for about 6 seconds, wait for tunnel vision's timer to expire, you know, that text above your super bar, wait for that to go away, then kill again to get it back up. In PvP, it'll feel inconsistent at best if you're chaining kills, because there's just not that much flexibility to control the timing. When it does work, it feels fantastic, and the added boost to aim assist is very noticeable. But because of how the gun operates, it's more frustrating than helpful. It would have made so much more sense if it refreshed after a kill every time instead of being locked to a timer. All things told, Trespasser feels great to shoot, great to kill with, and sounds amazing when you do it. So where does it stack up in the grand scheme of things? In PvE, Trespasser makes an absolute mockery of around 90% of the game. In patrol zones like on the Leviathan this season, you are laughing when you see a red bar come close. It'll mow through shields and put an excellent base damage to mages as well. Boss damage isn't great, but it's not really designed for that. In Nightfall Strikes, the Trespasser is a very strong option for ad clear. Unrepentant absolutely trivializes most rooms, and with the addition of anti-barrier sidearm, Trespasser will certainly warrant consideration in your inventory for champion stunning alone for this season. The new dungeon Duality is where I found Trespasser to be an interesting choice. It's an enemy-dense environment, but the power check meant that I wasn't chaining kills as often as I would like. The enemies just absorb the bullets a little better than normal. It would be worth revisiting once I'm over-leveled, but at this point, you get the idea. Trespasser is an ad clear weapon first, champion stunning tool second, DPS option third, fourth, or even eighth. And because it's an exotic, it takes the slot of something else that could be more useful. But we'll get to that in a minute. As mentioned earlier, the Trespasser is very sticky on controller and not as sticky on MNK. So the experience you will have will vary based on your input method and how well you can stick to its intended engagement band. Trespasser is a very good sidearm thanks to the adaptive archetype relationship, which I last ranked as insane in my not tier list on the State of the Meta back in Season of the Lost. Aside from the aim assist fall-off issue, the archetype still remains one of the best for its ranges, and not much has changed in that respect. However, there's a big difference between now and when we last looked at them. Adaptive sidearms were one of the best options in a shotgun-dominated world, losing out only to perhaps slug shotguns in that same 10 to 12 meter engagement band. With shotgun ranges nerfed again with Season of the Haunted, the threat from pellet shotguns has all but diminished. Slugs are still strong, but they're noticeably less lethal from distance. In this early part of the season, the meta is still in flux, but as of right now, the Trespasser is probably the best in slot option for anything between the 5 to 15 meter marks. However, it is handily outclassed by SMGs, autos, and even fusion rifles. And as the player base starts to move away from shotguns, one has to wonder if there's even room for it. So, here's the rub. Trespasser is an ad clear monster for PvE and legitimately the best shotgun counter in PvP. Ad clearing in PvE isn't particularly difficult given the raft of options that already do this. Overflow auto rifles, any primary with frenzy, solo 3.0 or stasis builds, the ability to aim for the head, the list is endless. It's very good at doing something that isn't hard to do, and the manner in which it does it is cool, but it's hardly going to make your hair stand on end. The kicker is that it takes up an exotic slot to do so, which means it's actively taking up a slot that could be used for something far superior like Gjallarhorn or even Witherhorde, and the raw damage output is hardly going to make me want to use it in endgame activities in place of something far more useful. Its only real value comes from the seasonal anti-barrier mod, but even then, I'd be more inclined to run my Peace Bond with Rangefinder to fit that role. Trespasser is only really a top tier option when there's Arc Singe involved, and even then, is it worth the exotic slot? In PvP, the exotic slot issue isn't as big of a deal as the fact that without Rangefinder, it might be the perfect weapon for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. I'm predicting a lot of SMG usage this season, with killer options like Enyo and Unforgiven coming out this season, as well as the reprised adaptive SMG in Hero's Burden coming from the Iron Banner. Those will be the kings of the short-range primary space until at least Waller decides to upload a video destroying an entire lobby using Riptide, the new Stasis Crucible fusion. Point is, if shotguns aren't the dominant archetype anymore, and it only really has enough range to counter those, then why use Trespasser? There may genuinely be no logical reason to use it. But when was the last time you played Destiny 2 on a logical basis anyways? Trespasser, as a weapon, looks great, feels great, and absolutely destroys folks. It's outshone by many different weapons and archetypes for its exact purpose, and for that reason alone, it will likely be overlooked by most after the first few weeks. The thing is though, it's just fun to use, and it can kill things really well. Those are the only two main priorities for weapons to be used and used widely. Don't expect it to figure prominently in solo strats, don't expect it to break the Crucible meta either, but going in and having a blast with this weapon, expect it to do that just fine. I really like this weapon, despite everything. It was a favourite of mine of Destiny 1, and it's a favourite of mine now. It's bloody good fun, if a bit useless in the grand scheme of things. 8 out of 10 Jaffa cakes for this one. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my illustrious patrons who continue to make the good content possible here. I'm Ascendant Nomad, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.